Folks, welcome back. I want to give a message to the collective, specifically folks who live or work in the United States. You don't have to be a citizen in order for you to benefit from this message. I'm doing it specifically for the American collective because I've not lived anywhere else. This is about the scope of my experience, but that doesn't mean that people who are affected by what the United States is going through can't also benefit from this message. I am using the Osho Zen Tarot to kick off the reading, and I will be finishing with the Sufi Wisdom Oracle. Fantastic, kind, but still honest deck. Okay, so Osho Zen Tarot is focused largely on meditation, especially to getting us to the point of ego deletion. And I think that's something that's extremely valuable at this time when Pluto in Aquarius and a bunch of other astrological transits are asking us to dissolve our egos, most especially Saturn and Aries. It is all about trimming off the extra parts of ego that don't need to be there anymore. So, I shuffle until Spirit asks me to stop. There are no reversals with this particular deck when I'm using it, but someone else may use it, and that's fantastic, okay? I shuffle until Spirit asks me to stop. Spirit says that's perfect. At the bottom of the deck is the Four of Rainbows. This is the Miser. My camera is not high quality, and maybe if I put the card in front, that's not much better, is it? But this is taking a look at people who hoard their stuff, and in the process, they lose. They build up walls between themselves and the others. This is entirely about ego that's gotten too large and too heavily associated with wealth. There is a kind of humiliation coming for people living in the United States who've always associated the United States with being wealthy, the shining city on top of a hill. There's a lot of collective ego that comes along with being an American, and specifically with American patriotism, that ties in heavily to this. This is selfishness. This is wealth that should be shared with others, but this particular individual, this entity, is not doing so. This is all about excess wealth that should be redistributed to others, and Pluto in Aquarius will do a lot with that. So will Saturn and Aries. We have a bunch of astrological transits this year, 2026 and 2027, that are going to be really heavy and that are going to push us into places that the United States is not comfortable going but has no choice but to go. These are consequences for the actions that the United States has undertaken now for centuries, decades. The United States has set itself up. I'm getting manifest destiny, the shining city on a hill. This is all to do with pride. Unnecessary pride. Absolutely something that I would associate with the Miser. That's the first card. I pulled it from the bottom of the deck. When I pull from the top of the deck, I get suppression. This is the Ten of Fire, also associated with the Ten of Wands. Four of Rainbows is associated with the Four of Pentacles, if you want to follow along with the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot. All about suppression. It's not clear, I'm sorry, but above this individual are clouds, and clouds with this particular deck are associated with a kind of mindlessness that takes us away from the present moment. Mindfulness is the opposite of mindlessness, and right now this person is just so weighed down with whatever it is their mind is encouraging them to become weighed down with, that they cannot focus on the moment. And this leads to a kind of depression. If you want to look at this story from this particular angle, this kind of elitism, the shining city on top of the hill, manifest destiny, we deserve this, gives way to a suppressive way of thinking when the time comes for things to fall apart in people's faces. This has the potential to be a deeply destructive moment, symbolized by these cracks forming around this entity who was bent over with the burden of being alive under this particular philosophy of life, this way of living. This is something to release. At any point, this individual can release their ego, but that creates a kind of death. It's not called ego death for no reason. It is loss. It is the end of an era, and it's hard. And a lot of people don't want to do that. I kind of see the American collective, by and large, definitely our minority groups do not have this luxury, but by and large, there's this idea of we're the best, we are unassailable, we cannot be attacked, and then when things take a turn for the worse in their eyes, or karmic retribution comes from the United States, those people can't deal. Okay? I'm continuing to pull from the top of the deck. The way you defeat this particular mindset is by living moment to moment. This is the Two of Rainbows, also known as the Two of Pentacles. This entity is hopping on some clouds over, you can't see this again with my camera, but you can see it in some scans of this particular card. This particular entity is flying above a city. It's not a coincidence that Spirit has been saying a shining city on a hill. We're meant to, float above this collective ego. There's personal ego and then there's collective ego, something that often patriotism, even nationalism, feeds into that collective ego and helps people feel like we're the best, our country's the best, we do things better than everybody else. This is asking you to fly above all of that and come into the moment, live moment to moment. Ask your guides what it is that they would like you to focus on at this time, and they're probably going to say, focus on your spiritual journey. You've heard me encourage you this on multiple occasions on this channel, but meditation, just 5 minutes a day. If you can do more, fantastic, but 5 minutes a day is all you need to really get that ball rolling for yourself, okay? And you can be of any faith in order to enjoy meditation. Meditation just means that you focus solely on something in the moment, even if you're doing dishes or laundry or some other boring chore. That means that you focus entirely on that boring chore, and that's you living in the moment. Of course, it can mean you setting a timer for yourself and listening to some meditative music or some, landscape scenery. Like an ocean sound, a forest sound, something like that. You can do that, but you can meditate all day, not just in a specific meditation session, okay? Continuing to pull from the top, I'm laying these things out, these cards out 3 by 3. There is the first row right up top, and I'm building the second row right now. We're leading the second row with clinging to the past. The explanation for this particular card literally calls this entity a blockhead because they are so blocked up with how things were in the past. This is a 5 of water, by the way, the 5 of cups. They can't see the wonderful cup of opportunity being offered right here in the background. It's a champagne glass, but they're so caught up in how things used to be in the past, how good things used to be in the past, that they cannot move forward. This is stagnancy. The 4, often when it's in reversed, for instance, and especially with this particular card right up here, that's all about stagnancy, not letting things flow. And here we come right again. The challenge is, can we flow again in spite of how painful the loss of a collective identity, the patriotism for the United States, the nationalism for the United States can be? That's going to be extremely painful for a lot of people. You're going to see people in denial, people who had, the kind to be MAGA people, We'll just be honest. The people who love the flag, love everything that's associated with the United States, in spite of how black folk, in spite of how brown folk, LGBT folk have been treated, and I'm leaving out others, okay? How disabled people have been left out, historically speaking, continue to be left out. For them, the illusion was never there. The illusion was never there, okay? They did not get to buy in. They were prevented from buying in, so to speak. But collectively, this is going to be hard, the falling apart of the understanding that indeed we were never great. So what was the point of saying, make America great again, when the answer is, at no point in our history, when it's always been founded on the backs of enslaved people, on minority groups, and pushing those people down, how great is this country? And I'll tell you, in my opinion, there isn't. I could talk a bit about this, okay? Here's the second card I pulled from the top of the deck. This is receptivity. This is the Queen of Cups. This is someone who has their arms raised up to the sky and fractal lines being drawn towards this lotus. This is what kind of an opposite, and at the same time, they're the same. This is, Spirit has a sense of humor, or a sense of timing anyway. Heads are not involved here. You don't see a human head. You see something else resembling what is going on in the mind for these two entities. All blocked up, can't move forward into the future, and the complete opposite, flowing completely with the moment, whatever it may bring. The physical head isn't there. What matters is if you block it up or if you flow with the moment. Stacked on top of each other, you have 10 of fire, suppression, coming together with the Queen of Water with receptivity. It is time to receive the karmic retribution that the universe has to give to the United States to make things right once again, to even out the scales, the karmic scales, if you will. And it's going to be hard for a lot of people. You're being asked, instead of suppressing how you feel about this particular moment, you're asked to flow with those emotions. The universe is going to give you space to do that as long as you don't stay there. That's the important thing here. Be careful not to stay all blocked up with how things were in the past. Be sure to do your best to move forward. And of course, you're going to have moments where it's too difficult and you need to mourn the past. You need to mourn how things were. If things were good for you in the past and they stop being so, don't stay in the moment, as painful as it may be, and be aware that there will be people around you who will stay in the past and will not be able to move forward. It's up to you to decide whether you want to move on from those people and not allow them to drag you down, or if you're in a circumstance where you need to stay with them for one reason or another, can you still find a way to flow within yourself personally? Be aware that 10 of Fire is associated with the 10 of Wands, and that's also about a burden. This particular entity, of course, all bent over with all these ropes around their body. They are deeply oppressed, burdened, but be careful not to burden yourself with the perspectives and the grief of others. Be cautious of enmeshment, codependency at this time. Pluto in Aquarius is all about the collective, the individual, and we're transitioning out of the shadow of Pluto in Capricorn, which was about the elite, the billionaire, the top class, who are able to command others to do as their will decides, without consequences, without blowback onto themselves. It's a tremendous transition that a lot of people are not prepared for, and they will be blindsided by, and they will become likely very bitter by. There's also, again, the risk of a tremendous number of suicides going up this year and the next 2 years after this year, because folks will not be able to handle the end of an era. Spirit has given this warning to us multiple times before in other videos. Please be aware of this. We have more water energy here. This is the 8 of water. This is letting go. These are drops of water that are sliding off these. Are they lotus lily pads? Possibly lotus leaves falling off of lotus leaves and into the water. It's letting go of one way of living and transitioning into another way of living. The water drop is still water, but it is in a different context. The water drop isn't a solitary drop anymore. It is part of millions of drops, if you want to look at it that way. But we don't look at water, a stream, a river, a ocean as, oh, this is bajillions of drops. We don't think of it that way. We think of the bodies of water as one. And that's where it's going to be a real transition that a lot of people are not going to make. And I hope that if you're watching this video, that you do make that transition into thinking that way. Thinking of yourself as part of the collective as opposed to the individual. Now, especially if you're an American, this whole pull yourself up by your bootstraps individualism can be deeply toxic. So you're being asked to live in the moment in a kind of a playful kind of way. This individual is having a little bit of fun, hopping from cloud to cloud, existing in the beautiful rainbows around them, seeing the world as it is, and also seeing the beauty in the world that other people may not be able to see. That's going to assist you with transitioning into a new way of thinking about yourself, and not thinking of yourself as someone who can just be an individual, an island, so to speak. Human beings are not islands. We're not made to be islands. We are made to live in communities. And there's something about the American dream which has isolated people and has created incredibly powerful classes at the top and incredibly weak classes towards the bottom. It also contributes to the vanishing of the middle class because this is about extremes. Pluto, anyway, is kind of about extremes. It's about what's coming up from underground and manifests at the top, and it often surprises a lot of people. With Pluto in Capricorn, that was about the elite billionaire class rising to the top and grabbing even more power than they already had before. And it's also about people seeing that, or the people who are consciously living choosing to see that. Occupy Wall Street as a movement has not been around in a long time, but you still have a lot of the vocabulary that they introduced, such as the 99%, the 1%. We're still talking about the 1%, and those 1%ers are going to really struggle, and there's a risk of suicide with them too, because they cannot handle not being the 1%. Now, it's the 100%. Because whatever Pluto in Aquarius has for us, it is a leveler. In the sense that old structures that existed in the past cannot move forward anymore. And those who try to cling to the past before Pluto in Aquarius comes to in effect, will be left behind. And Spirit has already talked to us about this, that there will be people who simply not adapt to the new things, new structures of society that we have coming to us over the next 20 years, and they're going to be left behind in the Pluto and Capricorn era. Kind of think of the Amish, for instance. They live their lives in such a way that it predates the Industrial Revolution. They've stayed stuck in that Pluto and Capricorn era, and they've refused to even pass through the Industrial Revolution that existed alongside Pluto and Aquarius back then. Okay, you're going to see more of that. They will not let go. They will not live moment to moment. They will stay stagnant. They will stay stuck to this idea of we used to be so great, we used to be so good, our way of living is the best way that you can possibly live. Be aware of those people and decide whether or not you want them still in your lives. Okay? Pluto and Aquarius is all about letting go of old structures that no longer need to be there, and keep in mind that the universe may take things away from you, may take away things from others, that if they continue to cling to them and the universe says it is more harmful to you for you to hold on to this, the universe may force that situation or force that circumstance away from you. It'll still be painful. It's better for you to be receptive and go with the flow. It is better for you to understand that suppression is not the way to be, that flowing is. Okay? We're going to do one more row. Excuse me. Clinging to the past, receptivity, and letting go were the 3 cards of the second row, and I'm starting the third row. This is the Devil card when you associate it with the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot. This is conditioning. This is a lion who is pretending not to be a lion, not because he's trying to catch some sheep or anything like that, but because he doesn't know any better. He thinks he's a sheep. He's wearing, in fact, a lamb skin and is trying to blend in. He has been socially conditioned to believe that he is one thing when, in fact, he is somebody else entirely. It's this blending in and clinging to the past that is so destructive and so harmful to your personal psyche as well as to the collective psyche of the United States. It's what keeps it stagnant and holding on to the past. We all are like this. We all blend in together. We don't stand out in any way. We don't say anything different. We don't behave any differently because you go along to get along, that kind of thing. And eventually that's not going to work anymore. Pluto in Aquarius demands that this structure cannot stay in place. Remember that Eckhart Tolle says, I don't remember the book now. Dang it. Eckhart Tolle says that all structures are unstable, and I will put the name of the book up on the video in post-production, okay? I apologize. New Vision. This is, it's 12. That's the Hanged Man in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith. Here's your conditioning. Living a way that others find acceptable, but you feel constrained. But maybe you don't understand why you feel constrained. This is continuing the story from this particular card. You can't see it with my particular screen, but there is a man kind of bent over, like the suppression card with the 10 of fire, the 10 of wands, bent over on the ground on his hands and knees, but then he pops forward and has a new way of thinking, a new way of believing. This is the new way, this is the new vision. And now this person cannot be constrained any longer. They're dancing with their new vision. Receptivity to what the universe wants to teach you, to what your guides, your ancestors, your deities want to teach you is how you flow into this new vision. Understand that suppressing the old way of existence, blending in, just going along to get along, is not the way to go anymore. You need to do your own thing. When it is time for you to look back at your life and see how it is that you operated, you're not going to be able to point to this person and that person and say, well, I was just trying to get along with them. I just wanted to be like them. I was a follower because it was easiest to follow. That's not going to pass muster, as you might say, okay? You are still responsible for your own spiritual path. We are all individually responsible for our own spiritual path. We are called, all of us, to have this, even when society at large, unconsciously living society at large says, you're stupid. What are you doing? This is dumb. Fuck them. Okay? Universe says to fuck them and follow your own spiritual path at all costs. Because the universe says you following your own spiritual path will pay in dividends. In terms of rainbows, if you want to say that, pentacles, it will pay on all levels. Wands, cups, Swords, Pentacles. It pays out on all those levels. It's not easy, let me just say. That suppression card says it is not easy to break out of this because it's hard. And let me tell you what, I'll tell you from experience that it is not easy living differently from other people. Blending in, going along to get along is easier. But it's also the path that does not deserve to always be taken. Hard stuff needs to happen in order for you to become who you are ultimately meant to become, on your way to godhood, on your way to not needing to be incarnated on this earth anymore because you've learned everything that you needed to do, and now you become a god. Now you become someone's guide. That's ultimately what we're going for each and every soul over the course of lifetimes. That's ultimately where karma needs us to be. Last card. This is the Sun in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith. This is an innocence. This is the last card. Makes perfect sense to me, dude. Living moment to moment will allow you to let go, and it will allow you to look at how beautiful the earth is. Really pay attention to how beautiful the moment is when you can just live in the moment. Innocence is about kind of making friends with the inner child, having the inner adult and the inner child living in perfect harmony. This entity right here is having a conversation with a praying mantis underneath a beautiful cherry blossom tree, or cherry tree, I should say, and the blossoms are out. They're having a conversation, they're living in the moment, and they're enjoying themselves. It's innocence after having gone through a shitload of pain to get there. It's not a mistake that we are ending this particular reading with 3 major arcana cards here. When you choose to stop blending in and you choose to reject the social conditioning around your way of existence, that's when you start to realize a new way of living. And ultimately, the new way of living is you integrating your inner adult and your inner child in the best way possible. Ego deletion. You get out of your own way and you see yourself as the work of art internally that you always were. Ego hid it from you. The collective, larger ego hid it from you. Because when you are young and you are voiceless, the world will tell you who you're going to be. And for a lot of people, it's most comfortable for them to stay in that context and continue to allow the world to tell them who they're going to be, what milestones they should reach in order to be acceptable, what credentials, what networks, what degrees they should have in order to be considered acceptable by a larger society. The universe says it's time to release all of that, receive the message that we want to give to you, and come into a place of deep and abiding happiness so that no matter what happens, your center of gravity is within yourself. Your peace is within yourself. This is capital I inner, capital P peace, true inner peace that is untouchable, that is bulletproof. Okay? So that's the Osho Zen Tarot. I want to close out with a reading from the Sufi Wisdom Oracle deck. Shuffle until Spirit asks me to stop. I'm being asked to take from the bottom. Dawn of love. Love is rising on the horizon of your life. And this doesn't have to be romantic love or friendship love or family love. This has to do with an all-encompassing love for the universe, for everybody in the universe. It's tied to compassion for those who continue to stay stagnant. When you have deleted your ego, you understand why people behave the way that they do. Really, really quickly, I'm being told by Spirit to look at the mantras associated with these particular cards. Dawn of Love has, I am choosing what gives my life meaning. I am choosing love as the true work of my life. I am beginning to live what truly blesses my heart and brings me joy. Break free of patterns. Break free of things that other people are saying, you should do this and you should do that. Break free of that. Don't tell them to shut up. Just understand that what they say has no effect on you. When you have complete and total inner peace, you understand the direction that you are going in life because you are in complete harmony and communion with the universe. By the way, Queen of Cups and the Hanged Man is kind of a perfect combination if you want to use it towards your best and your highest good. Then you release social conditioning, and that is where the true happiness lies. Continuing to take from the bottom of the Sufi Wisdom Oracle, you have drunk with love, overpoweringly happy, filled with compassion for other people, even when they stay stagnant in life, even when they may hurt you. Physically, mentally, emotionally, they may do their best to try to hurt you. And that doesn't mean that it won't hurt, but it does mean that you'll be able to understand why they are behaving the way they're behaving. And that is the start of real compassion, capital C, compassion. Let love lift you to freedom. When you're drunk, everything's swimming, you don't care. At least for me, I get affectionate and cuddly and happy, and I just want to be entertained. I just want to eat good food and hang out with people. You're meant to be in that energy. You don't need to touch a drop of real physical alcohol in order to enjoy this particular sensation. This is spirituality on a whole different other level. Ego doesn't get in between you and the universe and what you're meant to do. You just flow. The mantra associated with Drunk with Love says, I am opening my heart to let love renew every day of my life in the highest and purest way. I let love make me new every moment. Okay? There's a short story that I used to teach my students. It's called Zabalawi, I believe. I'll put it in the description down below if I can link the short story. It may not be linkable. It's something else to read because I'm not going to spoil it too much, but the main character's ego gets in the way of him encountering a profound spiritual moment because he's unconscious, living unconsciously, not intentionally, but it's something that he has to grow into. Living consciously is something that he has to grow into, and he misses a moment of deep spiritual profoundness because he's unconscious and searching for the truth. The truth is within yourself. You need to listen and pay attention long enough, though, to hear it, to realize it. And there will be people who say, the truth is not within yourself, it's in external factors such as in a particular deity. And while a deity can guide you towards your personal truth, often a lot of people associate their personal truth and aligning with a particular perspective when it's associated with going along to get along. Okay? It's about blending in. It's not about realizing your personal truth. Okay? Drunk with love, flow with the moment, that receptivity. Last, we've got imagination. Draw from the well of your own capabilities. You are much more capable of heading down this spiritual path than you might realize, and you deserve an incredible spiritual journey. You deserve this, okay? Looking for imagination? Give me a second. There we go. I am allowing my imagination to guide me in finding new directions and possibilities. I am accessing my own potential to live a more creative life. When we flow with our inner child, and our inner adult is all about what the inner child wants to do towards his best and his highest good, that's where creativity flows. Creativity flows from the heart chakra, from that green chakra, okay? And you may know the official name. I apologize, I don't have it off the top of my head. But I note that the praying mantis right here, green, associated with the green heart chakra. And I'm sure that wasn't like an intentional correlation that the artist intended to make, but it flows perfectly well with the moment right here. Flow with your heart chakra. This might be a great time to focus on a meditation that cleans your chakras every once in a while, possibly yoga. I have a fantastic yoga routine from Yoga with Cassandra. It's all about the chakra cleanse, and I feel amazing after I do those kinds of cleanses. That might be something that really benefits you. It's not a literal kind of energy, but if you flow with that unseen energy that gives a human being motivation to keep going or continue to reach their best, their highest good, that's where the chakras are related. That's where it's the 4D, not so much the 3D or the 2D that we live in. Okay? That's all from me. Spirit was really wanting a collective message to be released, and I am so happy to be able to do so. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Take care.